Ukraine's First Lady, Olena Zelenska, met with First Lady Jill Biden at the White House Tuesday to highlight the physical and mental toll Russia's war is having on her country. Zelenska is also scheduled to address members of Congress Wednesday as the conflict in her country stretches into month 5. On Monday, she met with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who reaffirmed U.S. support for Ukraine in its defense against Russia. The U.S. has sent billions of dollars in both economic and military aid to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia's Vladimir Putin met with the leaders of Iran and Turkey in Tehran. This was his second trip out of Moscow since launching the invasion of Ukraine. Much of the Western world has shunned Russia in response to the war. But during Tuesday's meetings, Iran's supreme leader said he backed Putin. For more, I'm joined by Mark Katz. He is a professor of government and politics at George Mason University. Mark focuses on Russian foreign policy, especially towards the Middle East. Mark, what is Putin up to?
Well, I think that they're ostensibly meeting for the Astana Forum, the Iranian, Turkish, Russian group that is an alternative peace process for Syria, which excludes the United States. And I think what Putin is trying to show the world is that he's not bogged down in Ukraine, that he can still operate in other areas, including Syria, including the Middle East, that everything's going just fine, that there's no hindrance on what Russia can do in other parts of the world.
And what are some of the common interests other than Syria among these nations that they might be discussing?
Well, certainly Russia and Iran, the main sort of anti-American interest. Turkey's also had difficult relations with the United States, so they like the idea of working together and sort of showing that they can do things without the United States. And of course, they're all very close to each other, and they have lots of business. Turkey is clearly concerned about what's happening in Ukraine, is trying to navigate between Russia on the one hand and Ukraine and the West on the other, while also perhaps taking advantage of the opportunity to make a move of its own in Syria, which Putin very much is trying to dissuade Erdogan from doing.
Are these kinds of meetings, when you think about the sanctions that the anti-Russian alliance with respect to Ukraine have put in place, Putin has some arrangements he can make with other countries, Iran, China. Is this kind of meeting the kind of thing that autocrats need to have in case they get sanctions put on them from any Western nations?
Well, I think the problem, is, of course, is the West isn't sanctioning just one country, Russia. We're sanctioning Russia, Iran, China, all manner of countries. And the problem is that the more countries we sanction, the more that they're willing and able to work with one another. And so this is, I think, is one such opportunity that we're seeing. Of course, one of the things that we're seeing is the Iranian drone sales to Russia taking place.
Finally, Mark, Turkey's a NATO member, so help us understand the complexity of that. If Putin is meeting with Erdogan, is there any chance he's trying to influence NATO, or is that not a part of what these discussions would entail?
I think the great thing about Erdogan for Putin is that he has difficult relations with NATO. Now, of course, Erdogan has some difficult relations with Russia as well. And so I think Putin, it's a fine balancing act that you don't want to oppose Turkey in places where Russia really doesn't like what it's doing so much that it turns back to NATO. But so far, I think President Erdogan's cooperating very much with President Putin, that despite his differences with Russia, whether it's in Syria or Armenia, Azerbaijan or Libya or Ukraine itself, that Erdogan's willing to work with Russia. And I think in the knowledge that NATO wants to accommodate him to some extent. We don't want to lose him, certainly, as difficult as a partner as he is. And so Erdogan, I think, is trying to play this very, very much to his advantage.
Right. All right, Mark Katz, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.